Good evening, everyone. This is the Board of Commissioners workshop meeting, Wednesday, March 22nd at 1800 hours or 6 p.m. City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Rosteck,
Present.
Commissioner Kerr,
Here.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Here.
Commissioner Brooks, here, and Commissioner Taglerini is absent.
Okay, first up is public comment. Public participation is encouraged. If you're addressing the commission, step up to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and do not include any topic that is on the agenda. Public comment on agenda items will be allowed when they come up. Do we have any public comment at this time?
Good evening, everyone. Barry Rubin, President and CEO of the Treasure Island Madeira Beach Chamber of Commerce. I'll be very brief. I just wanted to welcome the new mayor and new commission to this commission, for lack of being redundant, and let you know that the chamber is here for at your disposal. Whatever we can be a partner of yours in any way, shape, or form, we're happy to do so, and we're very excited to work with the folks that were here and the folks that are here. So best of luck to all of you. Thank you for putting yourself out there for the betterment of our area. And we really appreciate it. Anything we can do, please let me know.
Thank you. You're very kind. Next up is presentations.
First, we'll have Fire Chief Clint Belk present the Firefighter of the Year.
Mayor, Commissioners, again, thank you for a few minutes of your time this evening. This is for 2023 Madeira Beach Fire Department Firefighter of the Year. This individual is chosen, or who was chosen, is a former Marine, and he was deployed overseas twice. His work ethic is great. He maintains a healthy lifestyle on and off duty. He recently completed the acting driver engineer program to function in that capacity to fill any vacancies, whether it be vacation, sick leave, without causing overtime. As a small department, you have to wear many hats. You know, I task you with a lot, and he's accepted that challenge. Firefighter Wazalewski was selected by his peers. I do not vote. I leave it completely up to the men and women who have the ability to better decide who is most deserving of this award from the operational aspect. He's affectionately known as Wazoo, and it is my honor and privilege to announce Mike Wazalewski as the Madeira Beach Fire Department Firefighter of the Year. Our next award is the 5-year pin. This will go to Lieutenant Tom McClave. He has 30 years of experience in the fire service. 25 he completed with the city of Seminole, and then came over here to work for us. Yep, he's in his 5th year. He promoted to lieutenant after a year and a half, 2 years, very quick. He's taken on our training officer role. He's well respected throughout the community due to his competency and his passion that he still has for the job after 30 years. And more important to me than anything else is the trust that I have in him. I know I can task him with anything and he will complete it to the T, sometimes a little too much. Yeah, it's my honor to present Lieutenant Tom McClave his 5-year pin. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, next are discussion items. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. Again, Robin Gomez, City Manager. This is our monthly update of city operations activities for the month of February. Before our fire staff leave, I want to begin by inviting everybody who's here, everybody who is watching or will be watching. Hopefully everybody's watching at home or anywhere you might be in the world. You can watch these meetings even from Ireland. I know that last meeting. So we'd like to invite everybody to our April the 1st softball game between the USA Patriots amputee softball team and our very own members of our Madeira Beach Fire Department and some of the members of the American Legion Post 273. So that'll be Saturday, April the 1st, 6 p.m., right over here, likely at softball field number 2. So please, everybody, come out and support and watch the guys play softball. I guess fortunately or unfortunately, I was asked, and so I'll be participating as well. But so that's not to kind of show, but this is the jerseys, and yeah, they even gave me one. So we'll be. But please come out and support these guys. I'm sure I'll just be coaching. I do have a bad leg and things like that. They're all aware of it because they helped me with it last year. So please, everybody, come out Saturday, April 1st, 6 p.m., right out here at ROC Park. Remember our children park to watch the guys play softball against the USA Patriots. I do want to begin and to thank again outgoing Mayor John Hendricks. It has been great pleasure, humbling honor to have worked for you, to work with you. The city of Madeira Beach is definitely a better place, certainly because of you. And as can be seen up on the screen, all the things that you did, certainly even all the participating in the cleanups with the pirates, the turtles, Keep Pinellas Beautiful, participation in the Big C meetings, just being overall a great advocate for our wonderful city. I think one of the great things that you did, certainly after Hurricane Ian, was organize and coordinate and actually drive down several times down south to take food, supplies, and really just be an advocate and an ally and help a lot of literally thousands of people in need. So thank you very much. Gonna miss you. Excuse me. But I know you're not going far, John, so you'll be here.
4 trips.
4 trips down south. So again, thank you, Mayor. This past month, as I think just about everybody who does live here, who has visited, saw the return of a lot of our visitors to the area, and certainly even a lot of our what are called snowbirds that finally came back in mass numbers. So we're starting to see that kind of continue through this month, and it's great to see a lot of people out here. We unfortunately did deal a little bit with, as you can see up on the screen, the health alert dealing with what I call carenia brevis, which is the Latin term for, we don't want to use the 2 words, right, Megan? We don't like to use the 2 words for the stuff that the algae bloom out, but thankfully it looks like it has gone away. Now apparently we might be waiting for something else to wash up on our shores, but hopefully that doesn't happen, a giant blob of seaweed. As we do every month, we hold a lot of special events, activities in addition to meetings. We held the grand opening for our city store right next door here to our commission chambers. It was a very nice event. Dozens came out. We had the opportunity to look at the merchandise and really to help us spread really what Madeira Beach is about, to show pride in our city, wear some of the materials, whether it's a hat, a shirt, a bag, whether it's a magnet, a Christmas decoration. We're trying to promote our city, market our city, and show really what a great place this is to, again, live, learn, work, and play. So we encourage people to come out, stop by. We're open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4:30. We will likely, about every other month, have an event where folks will be able to come out in the evening and visit the store or have either a kind of a meal, dinner, or happy hour with the city manager, an opportunity for residents and businesses, visitors to come and chat about anything that may be on your mind. Of course, I think as everybody's aware, we did hold the election. Thank you to Clara Van Blargen, our city clerk, for serving as essentially the supervisor of elections for our election. Everything seemed to go quite well. No issues that were reported. So thank you, Clara, to you and your staff for that. As we do every month, obviously, we hold cleanups. We held, 2 cleanups were held. Well, we don't hold it. We assist the trash pirates and the trash turtles in holding these cleanups, and it's very much appreciated to help make our city shine a little bit more. We continued reminding folks and visitors, residents of some of our ordinances, particularly to clean up after you're out on our sand, fill in any holes, please take your trash, place them in the trash receptacles. Try to avoid having glass on the sand. We don't want that to fall and break. And of course, we still want to discourage people from bringing your dog, pet, animal onto the sand. That continues to be a little bit of an issue. We do have deputies more than ever before out there patrolling, watching. We have had 2 extra duty Pinellas County Sheriff's deputies out patrolling from 6 p.m. till 11 p.m., again, mainly to ensure no issues. Last year, some residents along Gulf Lane from essentially 128th or where the Johns Pass parking lot on the west side of the bridge, all the way up to 136 residents and visitors staying in those condos. Even some of the maintenance and owners express concerns of folks going onto their property, dumping trash and doing other things that you shouldn't be doing on private property. So that has really been curbed and reduced by the presence of deputies out there. So that will continue through at least Sunday, April the 8th, which is either the 8th or the Easter Sunday, as the crowds continue to kind of arrive. We also, thanks to our Public Works staff and our sanitation staff, they completed the delivery of the new trash containers, the 64-gallon brown, or I've been called, it has been communicated to me it's a sand color. I'm not sure which one they do look light brown. But all of these were delivered and they are in use. We will have a discussion at our April workshop to provide an update, but also to answer and address some of the concerns. This is a big change because now there are hundreds of containers out in our neighborhoods. And as has been explained at these meetings, the expectation is for those, when it is not the collection day, for those trash containers as well as the blue recycling containers to be stored somewhere on the property, preferably where they are not visible from the street. We know that there are some limitations with that, but we definitely do not want them near the curb or certainly on the street for days at a time. The ordinance that was adopted at the last council meeting requires that those containers be placed out no earlier than sunset the day before the collection, that they must be removed or placed back by 7 p.m. the day of the collection. It is, as I said, a little bit different because as you're driving down certain streets, you will now see these containers all lined up. And that is just a little bit of a change as you're driving down Johns Pass Avenue and on the way to visit Commissioner Kerr, and you see them lined up. Some of them may be pushed out a little bit more than they should be. Some may not be retrieved until later, very late in the day, late in the evening. We understand that that is a bit of a change, but we're going to keep reminding our residents to please be mindful and place them. We are reminding our recycling vendor, Waste Pro, to, after they are dumped, that they are to be placed back as close as to where they were placed, away from the street. Certainly, we don't want them on the street. We don't want them to knock them over. Unfortunately, if we get a very, very high wind, they may get knocked over, but doubtful that they will roll around the street like previous, smaller containers that were utilized by residents. So we will continue to work on this, make sure that it is going to be better. It's odor control, it's trash control. Again, every container has a working lid. The city provides the containers and the city maintains the trash containers. Waste Pro maintains the recycling container should a wheel break or the cover break. So more to come on this, I think, at every meeting going forward. And again, just as we proceed through the report, again, lots of activities, lots of events that were held last month, and I wanted to focus that we were recognized, whether employees or some of our businesses were recognized at several events held in February by organizations such as Keep Pinellas Beautiful, the Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber of Commerce, the Treasure Island Madeira Beach Chamber of Commerce. So very, very much appreciated from a couple of our businesses that were recognized, like Sunshine Scenic Tours, Church by the Sea, to a few, to Water Warrior Alliance for all of their contributions. It was just wonderful to go to the events and to see and hear folks being recognized, including at the First Responders Dinner, we're our Firefighter Team of the Year, et cetera. So we definitely were very excited and grateful for that recognition. There's throughout this report, there are updates on city ongoing projects, including the beach groins, which continue. We're nearing the completion of the design and working through permitting, as well as the dredging of Johns Pass that is going through the federal permitting part, which does take several months. I will have an update for you on the dredging at the April work session and where we are in terms of the permitting for that. I think as we may be able to have an update on the beach growings as well as in terms of the permitting for that. But again, the other projects that we're working on include repairing, there'll be a repair of the bathrooms at Archibald Park. We're looking at designs for the parking garage. We will likely bring back updates to that at the May workshop as to where we are with the new parking garage. And then road projects, there's a couple items that will be discussed with this agenda, this meeting and the agenda. And a lot of other data from our departments, from the amount of permits that were issued to parking revenue, and just an update regarding parking revenues. The commission approved an increase in the hourly rate from $2.50 to $3. Back in December 2021 is when the new rate went into effect. And through last month, that additional 50 cents has generated almost $560,000 toward a new parking garage. So within a matter of probably 6 to 9 months, will be close to $1 million that we will have available for a new parking garage. And to kind of complete, because there's a lot of information, we include in here obviously upcoming events for March and even for April, and again, reminders on our trash and our recycling. And also, just as a reminder, our yard waste collection is every Wednesday. It'd be very helpful for folks to keep that in mind, that does get collected every Wednesday. Hopefully put that in a pile, and then our truck will come by with the claw and make the collection. And lastly, the ability to communicate with City Hall. We do receive, we're getting more walk-ins, people coming to visit the store. But certainly, please continue to, communicate with us via email. Certainly, you can call, there are various cell numbers that are listed on our website, or certainly through the app that we have where you can report any issue or anything needing attention. We encourage people to do that. We are here to provide the wonderful services that we provide every day, so please let us know of anything needing attention. Be happy to answer any questions, comments, anything going forward or backward.
I have one question. Do we have any updates on the property on 95th Street?
We do, and we are waiting for the second appraisal. And once we have that second appraisal, I will notify the commission, and then we will proceed from there.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. That concludes my report. If there are any other questions.
Okay, next is the 2023 Florida legislative session bills impacting cities.
So Mayor and Commission, in the packet, there is a listing and then narratives for numerous bills that are pending at the current legislative session in Tallahassee. A lot essentially relating to, I would say, a little bit of the continued eradication, continued to sort of erode or the city's ability to kind of govern ourselves, or the home rule component that Florida statutes allow us. I want to thank Tom Trask and his firm for compiling the list of the bills, and they're listed by category. But some of the biggest ones that are a concern to us, anything ranging from, well, specifically the short-term rentals, bills being proposed even by one of our local senators to, and Tom, you can pitch in at any time, but really that would allow short-term rentals just about anywhere in the city, which is something that clearly we don't think too many people would be in favor of, particularly in single-family neighborhoods, allowing your neighbor to short-term rent for anywhere from a few days to less than a week and constantly have people staying next door to you. But there are some, if we had an ordinance prior to 2011, it does allow for a little bit of regulation on behalf of cities.
Right, so I'll just jump in and give you a little bit more information. So the city of Madeira Beach had, prior to June 1st, 2011, adopted a short-term rental ordinance. So that limits some of the ability for them to exist. Those that were in existence as of that time when the ordinance was adopted are grandfathered in. There's a grandfathering process or review process that we look at when someone brings that up. Every year for the past 5 or 6 years, the Florida legislature has been addressing this issue. So it's gone in and out from dealing with duration and frequency of short-term rentals to a key in on this particular piece of legislation, which is dealing with registration of short-term rentals. And you'll remember that in 2015, we adopted a registration provision here in Madeira Beach. So we're already ahead of the curve on both of those particular items for protection of the city. But in the bullet points on page 2 of my memorandum, it talks about the different things that are being suggested to be put in place through this new legislation. For example, limiting our ability to charge more than $50 of registration fee. I think we charge $300, if I'm not mistaken. So that would limit our ability to collect that. It allows us to go through the registration process, but in fact, it requires us to respond to any application within 15 days, so it really limits our time for review. And we're only allowed to deny registration in certain circumstances under this particular bill. So this is very, very fluid, just like every one of these that are mentioned in the memorandum. It's very fluid from week to week. And just for the new commission, so that you understand, this memorandum that you're seeing here, this is the second of the legislative session so far that we've produced for the city. We produce this memorandum about every 10 to 14 days. We don't do it every week because there's too much happening, but every 10 to 14 days we issue these memorandums to tell you where the bills are at, what our thoughts are on the bills, and ultimately if some of them don't make it through committee, that they have in fact are no longer an issue. So when this memorandum we show that we label them, whether it's a Senate bill, a House bill, a joint resolution, whatever they are, that's the tracking number, and so we'll constantly refer to that when we're giving you our memorandum. This last one was done on March 7th, so the next day or so we'll be issuing another one. And it is a public record. Anybody wants to see it, they have the ability to see it. But as you know, the legislative session, the regular scheduled committee meetings will end on April 25th, and the session will adjourn on May the 5th. So I'll keep you advised as things change in the legislature. So any other, did you want me to cover anything else?
A few others. On page 2 of 15 of the memorandum that Mr. Trask just mentioned, the Senate Bill 170, House Bill 515, essentially creates a process whereby cities would have to go through somewhat of a analysis, investigation, lengthy review of any ordinance that may impact a business. How exactly to do that is kind of a little bit of a challenge, but obviously we would have to do that. It would just make it it would take a little bit longer for us to, we could discuss something at a workshop, this is what we would like to do, and either prior to that or after, at some point, we would have to do a thorough review of what possible impacts that may have on businesses, so to determine whether we actually would end up adopting such an ordinance or not. Is it in the city's best interest to do that, essentially because we may have legal action in the future? If we negatively impact a business, they could file suit and claiming a loss because this ordinance caused them to suffer lost revenue, for example. So that's kind of the main reason of this one. I don't know, Tom, if there's anything else to add, but.
No, it's what they call a business impact estimate. This was also proposed last year through the legislative session. This is a major deal for cities. It is going to be a major expense. It's going to be a major slowdown on getting your legislation passed. And it's also going to expose the city to additional attorney's fees and court costs if any of them are challenged. So this is, as you'll see in the memo, this is one of the ones that I have placed a planning note. And that planning note on page 3 says some version of this legislation is likely to pass, and that our office is recommending that the code of ordinances be thoroughly reviewed and the ordinance updating be accomplished prior to October 1, and that's the date, that would be the effective date of that particular bill if it passed. So this is a really big deal. It's going to cost the city a lot of money, and it's going to require a lot of time, city staff time, to make sure that we comply with the law once it's adopted.
These are also pretty much everything in this memo, all the bills proposed in this memo are also being reviewed and followed by our lobbying firm, Schumacher Advisors, up in Tallahassee. They're constantly providing very similar updates, but they're up there, again, essentially working for us to make sure that some of these do not go forward, and as well as the Florida League of Cities working and the Suncoast League of Cities doing the same thing, making sure that, again, we don't continue to receive unfunded mandates. The legislature states this is what you must do. But they're not that well versed that, well, it may cost you $250,000 to comply with that, or $1 million, or that type of amount. So an unfunded, here's a mandate, but we're not providing any funding for you to make these changes. You have to find it in your budget. So obviously we're trying to not allow that to happen, but legislatures are legislatures. So, and just one other bill that's listed in here, also an attempt to lower the Save Our Homes cap. Currently, for properties that are homesteaded, the cap is 3%. There is a proposal, and I think it's the last one in the memo, which is a joint resolution, if I recall. But it would lower that Save Our Homes cap from 3% to 2%. So homesteaded properties, your value would only be able to increase by 2%. Or if inflation is less than that, then it's less than that. That is not changing. So the impact is less reduced ad valorem or property tax revenue to cities and counties, I believe, as well as every taxing authority. I don't think it segregates out any taxing authority. So something we might not be see as much of an impact because we're, like several cities around us, we've had such an increase in the last couple of years, but our properties our population declined from 2010 to 2020, likely as condos were converted to rentals. So once that occurs, the homesteading goes away. So then you're no longer subject to the Save Our Homes cap. Also, as properties sell, that valuation is then readjusted closer to the selling price. So the value automatically typically increases because home prices are increasing every time a property sells. So just something also that we're keeping a close eye on. And the last one that's on here toward the end is the sovereign immunity bill, where right now cities are, if you're sued, the damages that cities can pay out, and that might not be the right word, are limited to 200,000 per incident, 300,000 in total. The bill is actually proposing to eliminate that. So, or set it, I think, at $1 million.
2.5 million per
2
person or 5 million per incident?
So from 200 and 300 to 2.5 million and 5 million. So that's, obviously, we're very much opposed to that one. We encourage, certainly for most of these, we do encourage everyone who may be listening, watching, or will watch or listen later. These are important bills that really we need to share with our legislators, our representatives, our senators, and encourage them to vote no. We need to protect what we have, and again, under the Florida Constitution, home rule was created for a reason, to allow cities to best govern themselves, our residents, our businesses, to tell us that, and so that's what we're looking to do.
I have a question. Tom, on the planning note, are you suggesting that we look at the planning note, implement them after April 15th or whenever the session's over, May 5th, or something that we should do regardless?
No, so there would be no need to make any changes unless it becomes law. Once it becomes law, let's just say at the end of the legislative session, it the bill is signed, it becomes law, it becomes effective October 1, and that gap from May to October, we need to do our work to review the code completely, to adopt those changes that are necessary to limit the exposure once that law comes into effect. So it's going to be that little window of opportunity, but we want to do it before October 1st.
Okay, but a lot of these bills seem to come up every year. Are these some things that we should work on regardless, or?
I would not say change your code for something that you think may happen if it doesn't actually happen.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
sure.
But I will add, though, Commissioner, that we do review ordinances sort of periodically, and again, it may depend on kind of what may be happening or market conditions. So we are cognizant of that, but not to this level. But just so you're aware, we do kind of take a look at some of them, and for example, we're constantly looking at our fee and collection manual, for example, that we may need to update or change, or certainly a lot of the planning and zoning and land use ordinances are periodically reviewed, some because we're required by statute to do that. So we are kind of constantly keeping a check on that, but clearly, again, not to this level where the attorney's saying, hey, look at all of them because this is going to be a gigantic impact.
Sure, no, I understand. Just using the planning note as you move forward anyway, you bring these under advisement at the time, but there's no rush or to implement anything.
There's nothing that we need to do right now.
Yeah,
So once the legislative session is done, we know whether or not that this is going to pass, or what version of it, then we'll know how to change the code.
sure. Thank you.
Okay, next will be Area 6A Engineering Scope Approval. Public Works Director, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission, and welcome. So what I bring before you today is Area 6A, which is this side of town, which includes Municipal Drive, 1st, 2nd, 153rd, 54th, 55th, and Harbor Drive. So as part of our capital improvements projects, this area was the next area that we were to work on, we requested state appropriations for this project area, and we received $1 million. So what I'm bringing before you today is just the general scope to start on this project. Engineering has almost increased 6 to 8 months, so projects are just backlogged. So we're probably looking at not even starting construction for at least 8 months, maybe even longer. We have 5 outfalls in this area, stormwater outfalls. 2 of those are major outfalls, which is recognized by SWIFMUD and PDES, so very important. We will be doing milling and resurfacing, curb repairs, and replacing of storm drains. Do you have any questions?
Are we locked in any of the budgets on these? Or are we going to find ourselves in the same situation we were with the utility undergrounding, where we had our budget below what the actual came in?
Well, we can't really predict construction prices. So I budgeted $200,000 for the engineering of this project, which, as you can see, it came in at $141,500.
Good job.
Construction prices, though, it just depends on where we are. Pricing of concrete, asphalt changes often. So hopefully we will be within 20%, but there's no guarantee.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any further questions?
We'll go to Area 5 now.
Same exact project, just a different area. So Area 5 includes 129th and 131st. We will be working on this project with Pinellas County as well, and I didn't mention that in Area 6, but they're going to replace water lines, sewer lines, so we'll go into a joint participation agreement with them where they will pay for their services. So with that, we will just also replace our aging roads, storm, and curbs. And that one came in at, let me pull that up real quick. 52,000.
And if I recall, we're gonna put some conduit in for future utility undergrounding, is that?
Area 6 is in the works, yes. Unfortunately, Area 5 is way ahead of Area 6, only because they're already working with Pinellas County, so they're doing the engineering for Pinellas County, so that project's just, I will do my best, but I don't think it's possible to do it before the project on Area 5. But I have a lot more right away in Area 5 than I do over here,
Okay.
meaning it's not going to go on the street.
I know it's top of mind, so
Yes, it is.
I just want to put it out there. Thank you.
You're welcome. I did also request funding for Area 5, but I have not heard back on my application.
And that's from the state?
No, that's from the Department of, I'd have to pull it up. It was over a year ago that I applied for it. And every time I request an update, they say it's on the governor's desk and they haven't gotten a
So
response.
it's a state agency. Yeah,
Yes,
so from the
but I
state
just
of
don't remember
Florida.
which department it was. Any further questions on that area?
Pocket parks.
Pocket parks are a very hot topic. So I'm not sure if you all are familiar. We have 5 pocket parks in the Boca Ciega neighborhood. In part of the memo, I supplied a map which showed where those locations were. Prior to seeking out for an engineer, I requested quotes from 2 different paver companies to just keep it simple, clean, elegant, just like the 133rd, but both came in way over our budget, our threshold. So I've provided for you a quote from half to mirror, keep it close to, not mirror identically to the 133rd, much like this one here. The one that's probably included on your packet had kayak launches in that. There is another one that's supplied on the online version. The permitting alone for supplying kayak launches is $33,000. And after doing research from previous directors requesting this, I don't believe that we can make it happen because the pocket parks are 40 feet wide, and per our ordinance, we can only go 20 feet out, which can't be ADA compliant. So I propose that we take that out, and then we will come in at, I think it was less than $20,000 for engineering. And I believe the one that's on the screen is probably the one that had the kayak launches in it.
Okay, one question, I'm sorry.
Sure.
One question about the kayak launch then. Is it really needed? Can't they just launch off the beach?
We have several locations in the city, but we do know that residents were asking for that, so I thought that I would request the quote to see what the permitting would cost. With that being said, there's no guarantee that Pinellas County will even permit that. And that process will also make 6 months. I think it's almost what the Pinellas County permitting is for water and navigation.
And then one other question I have, page 91. If you look at task 3, the conceptual landscape hardscape plans, and then you look at 4 final landscape hardscape irrigation plans. So we're paying $7,600 just for plans?
It's not cheap.
Apparently not. Okay.
But in order for me to go out to bid for this, I have to have plans and I have to have specs. So I'm just looking for if we would like to move forward without the kayak launches or with the kayak launches, just a consensus.
My humble opinion, I don't think we can afford the kayak launches, and you're saying that they may not be ADA compliant anyway.
Yes.
And then from there, they can still just launch off the beach if need be.
We also have a kayak launch at the marina.
Yeah, yeah.
They can launch off a Bicentennial.
Well,
I would agree.
Okay.
I mean, you can launch a kayak in a lot of places.
I agree.
I agree also,
Okay.
definitely.
I agree.
Thank you.
And just a couple of other comments regarding at least one of these, because it has come up in discussions with, individually with commissioners regarding, there is at least one park and possibly a little bit of a second where adjacent residents have been using the right-of-way, and they have for many years. And it's just something that, just so you are aware, that will be addressed as we proceed with these, because at least one of them will not be able to use the right-of-way as they have, and pretty much for parking, for essentially rental units, I believe is next to
Yes.
it, on 131st. Is that,
I believe it's
Mind the-
131st, yes. And then we have
I'm sorry,
another,
132nd.
and then we have another one that uses it as their driveway.
As their driveway. So we will work with that property owner to provide them, obviously, the ingress, egress, or the driveway to be able to access their property. But there are numerous examples of private properties using public right-of-ways throughout the city. And we are looking to be very, very reasonable, very accommodating to a certain extent. And we can't simply continue to give away the rights of way, and specifically in the two examples we gave. So just so that you're aware, there will be more on this, and we will have meetings with the property owners, and again, look to provide a solution. For one of them, we will need to be very creative and see what we can do, but unfortunately, that's just the reality. So we'll keep you apprised of that. Residents the majority of residents in this area that I've probably spoken with at least 50 residents in this area, are excited to have these completed. I think the main issue being the cost. How much is this going to cost, which is kind of a normal response. So that's why we were having this discussion and showing some of the costs, but we will certainly bring back once we have more specific designs and then the actual bids.
And the good part is since I requested the quotes, we kind of have an idea of what the cost is going to be from the two paver companies. Because outside of that, we have plant materials, so the cost won't be too much more.
Great.
you.
Great, thank you.
Next up is golf lane amenities, bathroom, showers. Is that Megan
I
again?
think we have, and my
No, that was-
apologies, Mayor, we do have
Oh.
for public comment.
Oh, we have public comment,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm the one at 132. I am Changing Tides Cottages, and my name is Kathy Bierman, and I've owned Changing Tides since 2000. And on my license, from then on, it says that I have 12 parking spots on one side and 8 on the other, on that. I have that in writing, and I've had it in writing. So I try to work with the city. I mean, I don't own that property, I have the use of that property. And I have, when they were doing roads and everything, we have copies and different showing that it was on the property way before I came and it was transferred over, okay? So the problem is, that's my business, okay? And I really try to work within the town. In 20 years, I've never had a police call or anything, coming over to the sides or causing a problem. So, I'm concerned about my property, I'm concerned about the value of the property, but I'm willing to work with the city, and I hope they're willing to work with me. I can't just let it go, because I wouldn't have enough places to have people park, okay? So at times, whenever there's time, I like to talk with people. The other thing that would like to have before you take money and put it somewhere is have input from the people, because several people have come over and said, the one on 133rd, that wouldn't fit over here. And it's true. Some of them are more beachy, some of them are, different ways of approaching. And the one on 133rd, as far as I'm concerned, is somewhat standoffish. It has pilings or things in front of it, so it's intimidating. Don't come in here almost. And that's not what the park is. It has a fence. It has, a brick all around. It's just not something that I would like to have the whole area of Madeira Beach be. Some of it fine, but I'd like to have people be able to have input as to what would make it good and what would work for us. So I hope that that would work, and I appreciate your time, and I'm with you guys, so thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. My name's Tim Hawkins, 123 Boca Ciega Drive, Madeira. I have one of the properties next to these lots. I guess they're referred to as pocket parks. They're not really parks, though, are they? Aren't they more easements for pipes and sewer pipes and water pipes and storm sewage? But how do you refer to them?
Pocket parks.
Pocket parks.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
Okay. Periodically, they have to dig them up. We just discussed that, or you just discussed that. I've seen a hole the size of half this room. So I'm wondering about how much money you really want to put in one of these easements, and then have it dug up, in the future. So you might want to keep that in mind. I believe that's why they traditionally have put benches that can be moved, and why when they initially laid out the city, it's not like they went every 5 or 6 houses and put a park. They're not there for that reason. They're there for the pipes to run through, out to Crystal Island, to the pumping station, south, they go everywhere, and they do get dug up, as we well know. Since it's kind of been granted that nothing would ever be built on them, several of the properties were designed knowing that, my house for one. So I have 3 garage doors. I have a garage door on the street. I have one that faces south onto this city-owned property, and I also have a garage door that goes towards the water. I use all 3 of them, not very often. I don't have any tracks that go in there because I'm digging through it all the time. But I do access my backyard on occasion. And I'm fine with the way it is, grass and whatever, as long as there's not a fence there where I can access it at some point, 5 times a year, whatever. So it's not, I'm not blocked out totally. I counted 7 of these in our city. There's 2, there's one off of 129th, which is very tiny. There was one underneath the Mexican restaurant, for lack of a better term, which has been paved over totally. That's going to be a future problem if you have to dig that up. That's concrete. There's one next door to me, I believe 132nd would be it. One next to the Coast Guard station. I see fresh water running through that one. Next to me, I think there's actual sewage plus storm sewer, and I don't know what else is underneath there. I think that goes all the way to Crystal Island, goes all the way across. Because at the end of my street is another one. At 132nd, it goes straight across. But they all have something. There's one right next to 7-Eleven, which I think you're familiar with. I don't think that guy has any access to his property without using that city easement.
Can you summarize in a minute for us?
Yeah,
give you
I'll be
another
done.
minute. Okay, that's,
Please don't cut off my access to my backyard or my side yard. And like I say, I'm not driving it every day, but I need access to it. So something there, and grass and all that is generally nicer because you're going to have to dig it up at some point. So if, I don't know how much they were they $100,000 each or $50,000 each, or you're going to be digging them up. So thank you very much.
Megan, I've got a question for you then. Is this gentleman correct with the pipes going through these properties?
So when we did the BOC project back in 2016, we replaced all the storm drains and the sewer pipes. Yes, there are water mains that do go through some of these pocket parks, but we're not building anything substantial on top of these. This is at the pleasure of the commission. If we would like to leave them the way that they are, that is totally your choice.
But, so we know exactly, obviously, where the lines are, and we would
do.
not put, as Megan stated, we would not put, a decorative statue or a walkway or something. I mean, we know that in the future, if it's not us, it might be, obviously, Pinellas County Utilities. Likely those areas would be grass, as occurred for the one on 133rd. So we're cognizant of that and know that that's important. And again, back to the access and the availability, we will work with the property owners to, again, find the solutions that work best. Maybe the solution is it just gets grassed over. But that's what we need to work on, and again, we will bring that back to the commission.
Yes, and we will not block off access. There's the reason for the fence and for the pilings there is because people were driving through the property and destroying the pavers. So there was, that's the reason why those were installed. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is golf lane amenities.
And Commissioner Kerr, if you want to proceed.
Yeah, I think I brought this one up. It's, we're getting ready to repave Golf Lane, and this would go for any of the repaving, as I mentioned. It's not that I necessarily think that a bathroom will be a good idea at any of these beach entrances. It's that, have we thought it out? Do we need in the future security cameras? Do we need any type of plumbing underground for showers, for foot showers? Do we need any power underground for future, while I'd hate to see it, I've seen it in communities my entire lifetime, as soon as you pave something, it's 3 months later, they're cutting a trench because, one hand didn't know what the other hand was doing. So I just want to make sure we're thinking it out. Is there anything that we would want to put underground that may be a total waste? We put conduit under there and we never use it. Okay, so we've wasted some money to do that, but what did we save? So I just wanted the thought pattern out.
I did not plan for any restroom facilities to be added to anywhere on Gulf Lane, much like what Robin was saying of people taking over our right-of-way, Gulf Lane and those beach accesses. Every property that is on next to our beach accesses has taken a part of the right-of-way. So those areas are very narrow already. In the future, if we wanted to add a bathroom trailer at a location, we could. There's sewer, because there's adjacent properties, there's sewer lines and water lines already close by. We can definitely look at the location to make sure it would work better. But power, it's all getting underground with the undergrounding project. So for the foot showers, though, yes, I am going to add foot showers. Do we need them at every location because some of them only have 2 spots, parking spots? That's not my choice.
Again, it's just, it's not, I can't imagine it's that expensive to do the rough-in.
No, the foot shower is a piece. The last time I purchased one for Tom and Kitty Stewart Park, I think that one was $3,500. I'm sure they probably $4,500 now.
Sure.
But if you would like me to look into it, I absolutely can.
I just wanted to have the discussion. I don't know if anybody had any thoughts, any residents who had a real desire for anything. We wanted more of the internet cameras showing on our beach. Do we need to run any conduits? In the future, we can run communication cable through it. Do we just throw some of that underneath there from the from the closest pole that we still have? Although most of the poles are being removed, you get my drift.
Absolutely, yep.
So just wanted to put it out. I don't even know that I'm looking for an answer right now. I just want to make sure it's well thought out.
Sure, absolutely. I do not want to do a road project and go back in and cut it up.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if anyone else had any comments.
Just, Mayor and Commission, I mean, some residents along Gulf Lane have expressed interest in, because of the issues of not having a bathroom, from the Johns Pass Park parking lot all the way up to Kitty Stewart. And we have 7, I believe, from 129th to 136th. And therefore, there are quite a few people that use the private property as a bathroom. So the question becomes where is your, it would appear that due to the location of Barefoot Beach Resort and then across the street, Madeira Resort,
Madeira Bay.
Madeira Bay, that 131st and partially 132nd, which is pictured up on the screen, tend to be super busy public access points. So the residents along there, including some of the maintenance personnel, have said it might not be such a bad idea to place a bathroom facility. I think the question becomes how, what type? Do we stick a trailer? Do we physically construct one? As Megan said, we can connect to the sewer line, the water lines, electricity, and now would be a good time to plan that. That's something to think about. I mean, the cost of a structure, do you want to put a permanent structure in any of these? It comes at the cost of losing 1 or 2, maybe 3 parking spaces. Not a gigantic issue, but that is something to consider. So what's the best solution? I think having showers in a facility at several would be beneficial. I'm sure the residents and the property owners would really like that. But then how, what type do we put in? Hurricane comes through, You know, if it's a trailer, I think you can move the trailer. I don't know if the Kitty Stewart one can be moved, but, which we didn't move
We're afraid to
when
move it.
Ian was coming. So just some of the things that, I mean, we've contemplated that in looking at this project. Part of the issue with this one also relates to the previous item we were discussing about rights-of-way. Some of these properties do encroach onto the right-of-way. We have worked with the property owners. We are, in essence, going to lose a couple of parking spots rather than really going through and making some significant changes, removing walls, removing paving. So that'll come back before you when we when we essentially get the bids back in for this milling and resurfacing. So that's a reason for the discussion. How do we best go forward? We're coming up with just various ideas, and we certainly welcome input, but I've received quite a bit from the residents, the property owners, and they would like something there. It's just a question of exactly what and how and what, you know, the cost associated with it.
Would security cameras help the residents in that location for people that do tend to, you come off the beach and head towards
I'm sure
private
it
property?
It wouldn't
you know,
hurt,
it
but
would-
it's hard to
So
charge.
So I will say that, you know, people will try to avoid cameras. So here's 132nd,
Yes.
not a gigantic issue here, but a camera would not capture somebody 50 to 75 feet in the sea grapes.
Yes.
You know, if you can put cameras, you're being recorded, might that deter some of it? Yes, but we wouldn't be able to have a camera and look into the backyard of this property.
Sure.
Unless we placed the camera halfway down the walkway,
No,
up on a pole that gave you a 360, then we could, but I don't know the legality if you put a
Well, that,
camera.
and I don't even know if it's advantageous. I mean,
Yeah.
the view you have here is perfect. Is that something that was just a photo that you took and put in here, or is this
No, this is
Google
from
Maps.
Google Maps.
Okay, so would a live camera help? I don't know.
Yeah, it would help some, but not completely.
It'd really be, you know, and that's my question. I don't know the answer. I'm just asking the question.
We would also, if we do build a parking garage in the 130th parking lot, we would include a restroom facility.
Yeah, I think that's
In that
yeah,
parking
thank you.
that
garage.
makes perfect sense.
Right.
From a cost-benefit analysis, it sounds like if you were to put the security cameras there, you've got people that come here and leave. What are you going to do with that footage? You're not going to be able to identify them. If you identify them, then what are you going to do? So would a fake camera just stuck up on a tree
We've thought about it in a couple
Yeah,
locations.
Yeah.
It's just a deterrent.
Yeah.
If you think you're going to be caught on camera, you may think twice about doing something nefarious. Some people, or some more than others. This is 133rd. A little bit more open, this is an older, from December of 22. A little bit more open, as you can see, so this one doesn't get as much issues, but really 131st, 132nd, 134th. But again, we'll keep that open and see what else we can include in the project.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have a parking presentation. Oh, we have somebody for public comment.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to comment on the Gulf Lane issue. Tom Edwards, protected address. I don't think the residents along Gulf Lane would want a restroom in front of their beach property there. So having it at the parking garage is the best ideal on that. Maybe putting a shower it seems like 132nd would be the best place, out near the end of their boardwalk, where they could have a shower to shower and their feet too, and then step on the boardwalk to exit onto the parking lot there. Might be the only thing, and you could do that at several of the beach accesses there. but not a restroom. But, and I'm not sure a foot shower will be sufficient. I mean, as I say, people tend to come off and they want to just shower off. So that might be an option there. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, next up is our parking presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission, and we are here to provide an update on our parking enterprise. All things parking related that, again, mainly is a service provided to our visitors. We do provide a resident permit parking program as well as a sort of a pilot program for businesses, mainly at Johns Pass Village and Boardwalk. Our parking supervisor, Jamal Yahia, will provide the presentation. Jamal. Push the button. Thanks.
Mayor and Commissioners, how are you this evening? So I just want to begin with what kind of molds the parking department together, not only the services that we provide in hand with how to pay to park or the paying to park is through Park Mobile and, of course, our kiosk. So it's two benefactors, of course, two benefits that greatly improve the process of coming to the beach and just trying to get on the beach and the other activities that guests would like to utilize it here at Madeira Beach. So this is the only mobile service we use, Park Mobile, which is number one in our opinion, and most have already adopted it. It's a mobile app that's widely adopted and greatly used, and you'll see quite a bit of a percentage in that app for adopting and other aspects as far as the meter use that we also provide. So our revenues and our expenses have greatly increased throughout the years. Our fiscal years 18 through 23, you can see our revenues stay increasing steadily, so our expenses are quite low. And if you have any questions.
And also, Mayor and Commission, part of the reason for the increase from 20 to 21 and into 22, the rate increase where we went from $2.50 to $3. But again, I think a lot of the increase attributed to just the sheer number of additional visitors coming to our area. All the data that is generated by Visit St. Pete Clearwater, the marketing tourism arm of the county, as well as even the visitor counts just going through Tampa International and St. Pete Clearwater International have seen double-digit increases last year and really from the year before. So clearly we can see in the number of vehicles, and of course our residents are telling us there's a heck of a lot more people coming here. So that, again, the reason for the increase in revenue that hit just over 3.5 million last fiscal year. We are, these numbers are through February, I believe, Jamal, so 5 months into the year.
Yes,
we're looking to exceed, barring any economic situations, or likely March will be a little bit less due to the algae bloom earlier in the month. But overall, we're looking pretty close at exceeding last year's revenue as well.
Yes, very healthy. Did you have any questions about the mobile app? I apologize.
I had a quick question. I know Park Mobile has, there's a fee to the user that's separate from the fee that they pay.
45 cents, yes.
Is there any charge to the city from the Park Mobile?
No, they greatly appreciate the adoption rate that the city provides, which is the 45 cents is passed on to the guest.
Right, I mean, it's a great app, I used it up
Very
north.
convenient. They can, they get alerts, they pay within time frame, which, with a good time frame from expiration to an
Right,
intended use.
If they're having dinner somewhere and their meter's gonna go out, they go on their phone and they add money.
Exactly. It's a dual multi-purpose app for sure, and that's kind of an issue when it comes to guests not being able to perhaps add more time conveniently. But this app has greatly improved that just by the convenience of smartphones and the
It will also
ability
give
to
you a
use.
reminder. You can set reminders, so it'll notify you, it'll text you or email you, you have 15 minutes left. So and now the newest feature is you can opt in so that it kind of just stays on your home screen on your phone.
Right.
So when your phone goes to sleep, you move it and the screen turns on, you'll see your time on there. And you can choose to allow or not allow that to be shown on essentially the home screen of your mobile device. So the technology that we've been using hundreds of cities use this. It's actually used internationally. It is really the top one. In another city that I worked at, we actually issued an RFP. The only reason we didn't go with Park Mobile is because the fee was a little bit higher. But we found that the other company that we use, which was called Passport at the time, had certain limitations. It wasn't the best technology out there. And when it comes to, I think, parking for the 45 cents that customers are paying, it's well worth to have that.
We did have Passport at one point in
At one
time,
point.
and we upgraded to T2 systems, which have merged from UPS systems, so it's
Perfect, thank
an
you.
additional upgrade, which provides a lot of benefactors, so.
I've got one question for you on the revenue and expense report. Just looking at FY '22, what are the expenses? Like we got $481,000 of expenses. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
So expenses are throughout the fiscal year, and we haven't had any major projects contributing to the expenses. But as far as the breakdown analysis, it's mainly the big chunk of it is mainly in preparation of guests to have the know-how to pay for, like, it's mainly spent on signage and other factors as far as upgrading visual ability to pay and anything going towards the overall purpose of the department.
Well, and also the enforcement side of it, so we did add at least 1/2 of an FTE, and then we decided toward the end of the year, which was in the budget, to add another 1/2 of an, so essentially one additional full-time equivalent for enforcement, and that's another reason why the revenue increased additionally, because we really weren't enforcing. If you're going to have a parking operation, you have to have the enforcement. It comes with some great pains, and we will discuss that when we get further in the presentation, but you cannot have a valuable and actually working business like parking without having the enforcement. If we choose not to enforce, and we can certainly do that, and that if that's the direction the commission would like to follow, I certainly don't recommend that, but if we're going to do that, we don't need to charge for parking, because it's not worth it without it, and you will see what happens when you begin enforcing. And we will always have certain individuals who, I didn't see the 120 signs, I just drove by. I never had to pay to park. Consider yourself lucky you had free parking for the number of times that you came here, but we're very reasonable about how and the enforcement, but you have to have it. Otherwise, we really don't need the business, the enterprise.
No, and
Absolutely.
I fully understand. It just seems like the numbers are almost $500,000 to bring in $3.5 million of revenue. The numbers seem to be somewhat lopsided to me. I was just looking for an explanation of $500,000 of expenses. It's just,
Well, we have, a total of five FTE, a little over 5 FTEs, all the equipment. This includes every single expense, so I think we spend or in '22, at least 100,000, I mean, we will check, but about 100,000 of that were the fees that we pay Park Mobile. So this is the gross revenue, the gross expenses. So not necessarily that's what we spent, but, I mean, when somebody does pay, all of that payment, if you buy 2 hours of parking at $3 an hour, it's $6 plus the 45 cents, $6.45, all of that comes to us. We then pay Park Mobile the 45 cents per transaction. Well, we can certainly provide more detail of the breakdown on the expenses, but again, as the revenue has gone up, we've had to increase some, as Jamal stated, for a considerable amount of additional signage, additional just information that we're putting out, and additional enforcement are really the majority of the increases in those expenses.
Thank you.
All right, this is tickets by location. This kind of gives you an overview of, an arching overview of how many citations we would issue per fiscal year, per lot. And this is basically to show you kind of our hot spots. So you can see Archibald is greatly impacted by citations, also Village, as we all know. There's been a few years where it's been impacted by unforeseen instances or incidents, but we have greatly improved citations as far as basically writing them and issuing the citations.
Don't think this slide is in the packet, in the agenda, but we will provide that to you. But I mean, essentially kind of from right to left, 2018 to 2023, there have been obviously increases in the number of tickets, violations issued from, a low at kind of at Johns Pass Village from 1,600, 2018, we did some enforcing in 2019, but then obviously then COVID hit, we did minimal enforcement throughout the end of 2020, most of 2021, and then again started up again in 2022, as evidence up to 1,973. And so far this year, we're close to double, almost equaling the number of citations issued last year. But we will provide this slide as well. Oops, sorry.
So again, Park Mobile has greatly increased their presence here for adoption rate. And you can see that just from this year, the adoption rate increase in usage just through February. And we project it going even higher as far as the adoption rate and the usage for the app.
And there are two ways that visitors can pay, either using the Park Mobile app, which is showing the revenue per month, or physically at the kiosk meter at every single one of the lots, as well as on Village Boulevard. So when you do pay directly at a kiosk, you could only pay with a credit card. And then there is no fee because it's not being processed. There is no Park Mobile fee because it is not going through the app. It's only through the app that a customer pays the 45 cents. So I guess if there's a disadvantage to paying via an app, it's that it's costing our customers 45 cents. If you do pay directly at the kiosk, you're not paying that fee, you're saving yourself 45 cents. But again, there's significant advantages to using the app, the ease. You don't have to pull your credit card out. It's already saved on the app, and again, it gives you the reminders. If you do pay physically at the machine, it's not going to give you any reminders because it's simply recognizing plus you do have to enter your license plate physically, and that's where we've had some errors, and we will discuss that when we get to the citations where we've made a policy change as to how we handle errors. Somebody transposes the number of their plate, or they just simply typed in the wrong plate. You need to be careful when entering your plate, and there are 2 checkpoints at the meter that where you do have to look at your plate and then click yes to continue, but, visitors tend to be in a hurry, they're not really paying attention, they want to get on the sand, they want to go eat, they want to go, grab a beverage, so, we've become a lot more reasonable when those errors, user errors do occur.
Correct. Yes, you just don't want to be, you want to almost, not train, but have the proper notice or a proper visual, signaling as far as allowing people to kind of step by step what they need to do. That helps, labor, officer by location get through the lots accordingly and properly, not wasting time on citations that don't need to be written, basically. So we don't want to, frighten people, so getting a citation is not the funnest thing. So we try to avoid any false citation in that manner. And that really starts with the individual correcting the license plate and really double checking. Everything you purchase would have a review screen, and this would be no different. So along with the mobile app, and everything has a review screen that we offer, the meter and the mobile app. So anybody have any questions about Park Mobile?
Tom Edwards, protected address. Have you thought about putting a license plate reader on your cars that are doing the enforcement as they go through the parking lot to take care of those errors that might be coming up?
Well, we wouldn't know if there was an error, though.
Well, what would happen is you would have the license, if they put a license plate in, it's usually just going to be one digit off.
Not necessarily. It's
But
not always the case.
The other option is that you may be able to sell that data also. There are companies that like to have that license plate reader information where cars show
Yeah, I
up.
don't think that's something we would want. I would definitely opine against that. I don't think, that's not really the business that we're in, but just, not my decision, but that's my suggestion.
As far as collecting data, no. It's strictly for the department itself. But I do somewhat know the technology as far as mounting license plate cameras. It's ALPR service, which does rapidly retrieve each license plate as you're driving through, which you would remain in the vehicle until a potential citation is alerting you.
Take care of those errors easy.
Right. And the areas we would think about putting that technology in, you would still have to follow the flow of traffic, which you would have to the traffic would be on hold while you have to get out. You can kind of get a sense as far as directing through the lots and seeing how many violations there could potentially be through that technology, but you'd still have to manually check. And as far as getting out and writing the citation, that won't change as far as what the technology is presenting at the moment. You would still have to get out and physically put the citation. It won't automatically write it and send it to the individual.
Our enforcement staff wouldn't necessarily know if it was an error versus somebody who just didn't pay. Mm-hmm. And that does happen significantly more than somebody making an error and entering their license plate. Mm-hmm. Just the sheer numbers of people who just don't pay, it happens a lot. It's very frequent.
It is.
And then we get a percentage who argue, I didn't see a single sign that said I had to pay to park at Johns Pass Village or at Johns Pass Park parking. Again, we're being extremely reasonable as we can be, but some of the issues, and you haven't, I think Commissioner Kerr has received copies of some of those emails, and, there's not much we can do, but, we'll look at whatever we can do and take whatever suggestions, but some of them just don't work.
Correct. Thank you. All right, moving right along. So this is citation revenue, again, fiscal year 18 through 22, and then, of course, the 5 months of fiscal year 2023. Again, it's greatly improved. You can see the reflections from just October all through September. You could see just the increase in fiscal year 2023 from fiscal year 2022. This is per month.
Yeah, again, when we really started enforcing, you can see starting in June, when we added additional 2 part-time positions for the enforcement, and you can, I mean, that just shows the revenue that goes up because we, again, continue to find just an inordinate number of visitors that were, for the most part, were just not paying to park. We also had residents who were, again, well, I've been parking there for 20 years, under the bridge. I've been parking on that sidewalk for 10 years. Sorry, you got free parking for the 20 years, for the 10 years, but it's not allowed. We're not going to allow it going forward. And people argued that they could park their vehicle on the sidewalk. And shelled parking areas at Archibald, a gentleman who said he'd been parking his golf cart there for 25 years, I believe. We told him, sorry, you cannot do that. And really, they were warned first, and then after the warning, if they did it again, they received the citation.
Correct, and it goes back with training, training the staff, being out there present. That helps tremendously, so.
What is the percentage that doesn't pay? That as our revenue goes up, we'll see a increase in people that won't pay, period.
So there's a flow I would like to see happen, and that starts with the correct plate. Our officers are not wasting time citing someone that doesn't need to be cited or ticketed. And for instance, for every ticket we do write falsely, we lose 5 to 6 citations in that period of time, just from people abusing the spot as far as going in, doing what they need to do and coming out, or not paying in general. And it's a pretty high percentage, like Robin stated.
I would think that's a pretty tough job sometimes, for our parking enforcement.
Sure, it's a collaborative effort, so it's getting everyone on the same page enforcement-wise, and reciting the same dialogue over and over and over again, retraining individuals that have been, like Robin said, coming to the beach for years, decades, and just encouraging the correct way, and respectfully, of course, but there's a certain level of strict behavior you have to have in the field, or people aren't going to take it seriously, which I think we've shown a tremendous increase in just in how we patrol. It's more attentive, so.
But Commissioner, I would say probably in the neighborhood of around 15% that show up and don't pay.
Mm-hmm.
It's surprising how many just show up and don't pay. And a lot of them are, I guess more recently we've noticed that a lot of them were after sunset and also very early in the morning. Oh, well, there's nobody enforcing out here. And that's happened in every city. I think people kind of figure out 2 things, when the enforcement occurs and where free parking may be available. And we still have 2 areas, or I should say 2 to 3 streets with free parking.
Absolutely.
So, but we don't typically advertise them, but they are still available, and we need to, one of them is Madeira Way. Madeira Way is free parking. We restrict it for beachgoers. It's listed on there, beachgoers are not allowed to park, and it's limited to 90 minutes maximum parking, but it is free. But it would appear that at least the west side of Madeira Way will be under construction, the triangular area at some point, possibly as early as this year.
And the county park across 144, they close at sunset, right?
They do, but people still park there. That's the overflow parking for the business down the street, for Bulacava, essentially. That's the majority.
Yeah, exactly. That's a big problem on 145 sometimes, the parking.
Mm-hmm. There's a parking lot directly across the street, but they charge anywhere from $5 to $8 an hour to park, and so they don't want to park there. We had, excuse me, we had issues on that street. We've met with the owners. We've come up with a couple of solutions. They've been doing much, much better. Cars were triple parking in that street, which was
Yes.
very interesting.
Is it possible to leave the county park across 144 open until about 11 o'clock at night?
We've discussed, and I need to follow up with the county again, because the county does not enforce there.
No.
I've never seen them write a ticket there, so this past year, they finally did change over the two kiosks, the two to pay. They're still at $2.50. They told us it would be $3 an hour. And so realistically, I think it would be better if we came to an agreement with them where we managed the lot,
That would be great.
and then you could split the revenue,
Exactly.
which a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I was involved in that up the road, and that worked out very well. But I guess in the last few years, that changed, and the county took back the giant lot at Sandkey Park. But we would like to do that. The county administrator was receptive to doing that. I haven't heard, and I'll follow up with the county. And
Well,
that would come back to you. I mean,
sorry.
because it would be a lease and all, or some sort of agreement that we would need to bring back to you for approval.
Which parking is fully capable of taking on that endeavor. So, on average, we're writing 35 to 45 citations, which in comparison to Clearwater Beach, 125 citations a day, but a great deal larger of a location. And then St. Pete, they're utilizing the ALPR service. They average about 25 citations a day. So you can see we're doing very well as far as trying to be a presence and taking on any violations that come in our way. So we definitely do our best. We try to go through each lot at least 4 to 5 times a day with proper rotation and any other sections that need to be handled as far as neighborhoods or along the lines of side streets or anything of the sort. So we try to be really available with good communication within the department. So it's kind of our.
Commissioner, you had another question or comment? No? Okay.
I did. So you really stepped up enforcement in May of '22, is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
And I'm reading this right, and I just kind of did a quick math. I was figuring these fiscal year monthly citation numbers were, the column had to be mislabeled or something, but you're actually,
50,
you're pulling down 50 grand
right, a month.
a month in citations?
Which would equate to almost 600,000 for the year, which is essentially about 1/7 of the total revenue.
Wow.
In which
The current revenue, the revenue will likely be higher. This is one reason why the total revenue, the gross parking fund parking would increase, just from enforcement. If we collected, let's just say the last full year, 116,000, this year we may collect 600,000. That's $500,000 more, nearly.
in just the citations alone, you're not seeing any real fiscal impact in visitors. You're almost seeing an increase. Not only that, our
Well, we've had a few who say, I'm never coming back. And then they send it to Better Business Bureau. I think we got an F-. Didn't know you could get an F-, but from one person, so, but very, very few and far between.
Yeah,
But every city that enforces parking gets that.
sure.
If I can just add from a finance perspective, the question was raised, such a significant disparity between revenues and expenses, which is certainly a valid question. But just to be clear, the parking operation is a significant source of net revenue for the city that the city does rely on. So it is intended to be, we can call it, quote, a profit center. because the city has other funds that operate at a deficit. Take the stormwater fund, for example. We do collect a stormwater fee that's on residents' utility bills, but that barely covers the cost of operations. And you just saw, we've got a number of stormwater improvement projects. We did issue debt for that in 2019, but we've got to pay that back, principal and interest. So the revenues that are generated from all these parking operations, including fine collections, does assist in maintaining solvency in the stormwater fund, maintaining good, healthy reserves for the general fund, and then what's probably most important to the property owners in the city of Madeira Beach is it helps us also maintain a flat millage rate over the last few years, that we don't have to raise millage because we generate this magnitude of net parking revenue from this operation. So just want to make sure that it's not intended to be a break-even operation. Indeed, we do want to make money because it does help support all of the governmental functions within the city.
Yes, absolutely. And if I may add, as the increase is present, there still is room for growth. So again, many some hours as far as lengthening the time that enforcement's out there. Right now, I'm pushing till 5 a.m. to roughly 9:30 p.m. So given beforehand, that was basically a 9 to 5 type of position. And then also really trying to encourage all visitors in the evening, as Mr. Robin Gomez said, where we were seriously lacking in enforcement. It's more of a hazardous time frame, but at the same time, it's necessary to be out there and enforcing. So visitors that do come, they understand and they see us patrolling and being a presence there on a day-to-day basis. So Monday through Friday, or Monday through Sunday, we try to reach the hours of 5 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. So just as a perspective. All right. Any questions?
Go ahead, Joel.
Okay.
Citations.
So this is citations dismissed and paid. So you can see we are not without dismissing citations. We do dismiss citations, and after careful analysis, we come to the conclusion if the citation is dismissed or the appeal is denied or granted, just like any other city would. Again, the increase in dismissal is due to the increase of citations in general. So the citations are usually dismissed, and it's been this way for years. The handheld itself, which I have one present if you would like to hold it or kind of see what we use on a daily basis, the tools we use. There's always a communication between perhaps the form of payment, if it's the meter or the mobile app, a delay and such. But if the citation is being written, it's being written because the payment didn't reach or didn't come up in our handheld. So we simply keep it very simple. We write the citation, and if the citation was falsely written, we have the dispute process, which is done online, which is very easy. We find the payment, and we then proceed in our decision with the dismissal or the denial. So it's a very simple process for our visitors that do potentially get a citation falsely. Again, it's that delay, which you can see in past and present that it's been that delay within 10, 15 minutes. Sometimes it just doesn't connect. So, and then of
Which
course.
happens very infrequently. It's not something that's happening every day. It's just occasionally the technology just doesn't work. Or there's a delay, as Jamal stated. But really, other than people just not paying to park, a citation may be dismissed because, again, they entered the wrong plate number.
Yes.
And we were initially not dismissing, if they can show us proof that they did pay. It's not as simple or as quick for us to find it. You do have to go through and play with the license plate to determine if they transpose the number or just simply, because it's usually not just off by one digit. Some of them are, but not all of them. Jamal, the other reason we dismiss citations are because we had some issues where it took a few months, but we finally have our own parking zones on the app, on the mobile app. Previously, if somebody manually entered a zone, you would have to choose Madeira Beach of anywhere from 4 to 5 different jurisdictions, such as Sanford, Florida, Indianapolis, Indiana, for whatever reason. So we
Tampa.
finally convinced Park Mobile to give us our own unique zones. So that should never be an issue. That will never be an issue going forward, because I think they're well aware, we don't know why they were using the same zone number in multiple cities. But again, it was a little bit of user error, because if you entered the zone, it gave you 5 options. So if you didn't choose Madeira Beach, you weren't paying to park in Madeira Beach.
Correct.
So that stopped a few months ago when they gave us our own zone, so that's no longer an issue.
Correct, and we can never retrieve those funds that they pay. And when I addressed it, they simply stated, well, as much as you're doing it, as much as they're paying other cities, cities are paying you, and it's kind of unacceptable to me. So I really just, with the help of Robin, we nipped it in the bud, per se. And all this is due, all these errors, or some of these errors are due just simply for the collection of data. So the more citations you write, the kind of you're able to tweak things and make them better, because you're able to see kind of every which way a citation can go wrong or right. So it's better just to patrol, keep it very simple. We don't target anyone. If the car is occupying one of our spaces and they did not pay, we write the citation, simply put. And that's how we've collected so much information on how to fix problems, how to troubleshoot. Everything works very well together, and we'll grow from there. Just keep the process simple.
I'd be interested sometime to do a ride-along,
Absolutely.
Sure.
That would be really interesting to do
Absolutely.
that some Sunday when you guys are super busy.
The Lord's Day.
Well, this is the busiest time of the year, so, yeah, that goes for all 5. If we want to do individual
Right.
ride-alongs, we can certainly schedule that.
Absolutely. Well, moving right along. So I just want to make some comparisons as far as the citations, if you ever get any notice from a visitor on how high our citations are. So you can see the hourly rates and the infractions, of course, from St. Pete, Treasure Island, and, of course, our Madeira Beach. So just a simple kind of the violations in comparison to neighboring cities.
In St. Pete Beach, 370, just the parking hourly rate, 375. Treasure Island's at, their community center is at 250 an hour. And then the violation rates were almost identical to Treasure Island, a little bit, and more than St. Pete Beach. I know St. Pete Beach last year was contemplating increasing their hourly rate up to $5 an hour, but I think they backtracked, and they may be looking, I know both cities are looking to increase their rates later this year or in early 2024. That's the indication we've received.
Yes.
And if we were to bring back any proposal to increase the hourly rate, we would have specific projects tied to it. Again, the last increase from $2.50 to $3 was specifically to fund a parking garage. So going forward, we would utilize, if we decided to introduce where we would raise it to $3.25 or $3.50, we would have a specific project, one that's in this presentation here in a few slides.
Alrighty. Any questions about? Okay. Oh. This next. Okay. All right. righty, our resident parking passes have been greatly beneficial for our residents to enjoy the beaches and our neighborhoods, of course, as well. Just a bit of an increase. Well, from 2021 to 2023, this is, I believe, till March.
Through February for
February?
2023.
Okay, correct.
Just the number of resident permit parking passes that we issued, 2,564 in 21, 24 last year, and so far through the end of February, about 1,420. I think last count through today, we were at close to 1,700 that have been issued this year. We did make a change this year that if you do, and it is an issue that a few residents have raised and have sent emails to the commission, that if you have we're not issuing you a resident parking permit if you rent out your property. You're in effect running a business. We don't give a resident permit parking to all of our businesses. So if we gave it to, we would literally have to issue a resident permit to all of our businesses, so we're not doing that. Also, we had numerous residents who were erroneously, probably about 50 who lived outside of our city limits, but because their driver's license says Madeira Beach, they would come in here and they were receiving. We were not doing as good of a job checking to make sure that you were a Madeira Beach resident. And now we are doing that. And every single resident has to provide us their vehicle registration and their driver's license. So really no change with that. Change again is if you own a business, we will not, at your property, then we're not considering you to be a resident and a business. And again, these are free, and they have been free for some time. I think Treasure Island was, I don't remember if it was Treasure Island or St. Pete Beach, they were charging $10 per permit, but they did away with that. So I think all three cities are free currently.
For the purpose of your slide, you must be assessing some value to it because this is all in dollars.
Yeah, no, it's not, it's just an error.
Okay.
Those are just numbers.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
To your point, the license plate that is in the image, the black with the MB and the multicolors, that is an option that we started this year where you could pay $40 for the plate and you could put your sticker on the plate and the plate on the front of your car. We had a few people who did not want to put the sticker on their windshield. So this is an option. I think as of last count, we had sold about a dozen of those. We'll check and can let you know, but we have sold a few, not dozens, I don't think. I don't know if you, Jamal, but we'll figure out how many we've sold. But again, just another option so you don't have to put the sticker on your windshield.
I remember years ago, they were going to go away, or the actual sticker was going to go away, and you were strictly going to do it by the
License
tag,
plate.
the license plate, the tag.
We can.
We do have that technology.
We'll look to do that. We'll look to do that for next year. That's one thing I'd propose for this year, but I think we had numerous residents who were like, well, I'd really prefer the sticker, but we'll look to do it, because that would be much easier. They wouldn't have to come in here, but of course, we like when people do come in here and they take a
Well,
look
they
at the
could still
store.
come in here and show their identification, and then they're still living here and all that.
And we just mark their plate.
Yeah. There's multi-factor ways to do it. A lot of. All righty. All right, our business parking that we have adopted, this is a trial for businesses to utilize a few of our parking spots, parking surface lots, 132nd, 129th, in between. It's $40 per four placards that they would retrieve from the city. They purchase the placards, and it's by number. License plate is still available for citing if they're perhaps improper or violating the rules of the placard itself. It's been very successful. Over 14 businesses, I believe, so far are utilizing it, either a monthly or a 6-month basis. So it's been adopted well. Anyone have any questions on that? So we're looking to the future here, and we've talked a little bit about where the direction of the parking department's going. Robin and I are very interested in kind of giving a better visual on how you can aid in your parking coming to the city of Madeira Beach. There's a few options, technology-based wise as well. It's sensors that will be applied to each parking spot that basically gives an alert and kind of keeps track of your vehicle as you hover and park in any particular spot. It's greatly increased visual availability for the guests that do come to the city, which of course people would like to really see how easy it is, or how available our spots are here at the city, and this will basically give you a better overview of how it will apply. So this is kind of an I'll go back to this is one of the sensor systems job, which St. Pete Beach has also smart parking, which is very similar to this, which again it integrates well with Park Mobile. It cohabitates well with Park Mobile as far as adopting users and, of course, allowing people to find a better way of parking. It's very simple, and it doesn't take up a lot of space for how everything connects. It can basically be connected in a day. It's a central unit, and it could be located here at Madeira or any high-rise, any higher any location where you can get better signal. Anyone have any questions about?
So what this is doing is giving someone an idea where a parking space is available through their phone?
In real time, yes.
What would be the investment for this type of technology?
Depending on which route we go, so just a few figures. I could collaborate this better with our finance team, but so we have roughly 558 paid spots here at the city. So about $195 per unit per sensor. So it roughly amounts to over 100,000. So again, maintenance on it as well. It's something to look at in the future, I believe.
It'd be a couple $100,000 just to begin, and again, installing the sensors and the system to be able to tell us the data, and then for the public to be able to view online. And again, you could view it on your mobile device or on the internet. Ms. Jamal said the city of St. Pete Beach has that currently. You can go on their website and then pull up what spaces are occupied, which ones are available, and in an actual map or numerically it tells you the availability. So it's just another tool to try to control, and it can alleviate traffic if people are looking at the data and knowing that, well, if I want to go to St. Pete Beach today, let me pull up, well, it's already full, I'm not going to drive out there. Versus, well, I'll just drive out there because I have no idea, maybe I'll get lucky and I'll find a spot. The reality for this is you really, kind of the benefit to, right now it's really kind of a really good thing to have. But what we're looking for in the future is even traffic flow. So it can tell us the number of cars that have driven past a specific sensor, and then that kind of gives us a better, if we were in the future, for example, to also use dynamic pricing. Right now, there are a few cities, but your larger cities, they use it depending on the time of day and, again, the number of vehicles that are on your streets and perhaps the number of vehicles looking for a parking space, and you can charge different rates depending where you're going. That typically is in urban settings versus a beach community, but that's where this could eventually go to. But just the basic, what's up here, it's right now we're at anywhere from $200,000 to $300,000 to implement something like this. But we would have to obtain, we would issue a bid and then obtain data if we were to proceed with this. We're likely not ready this year, so something likely that we may consider in 2024. But just wanted to show you what the other technology is available that, and how it could work here for us.
And just to add a point, St. Pete Beach has tremendously benefited from this program, and we can give you better details in another time, but just my visit there, it seems to be a really nice flow and how much they invested in this type of system. And again, with just going perhaps EV in the future, they work really well with these vehicles as far as just cohabitating with the technology. It benefits greatly. Perhaps going towards an electric, environmentally friendly path. So that really, so the last thing, again, we've talked in great lengths for how we're putting funds towards this parking garage. As you can see, if we discussed earlier, the impact and just the additional fund of the 50 cents have gone to the parking garage, which has increased.
And this spreadsheet is just through January, though. The earlier in the manager's report,
Right.
Manager's report, that was through February, so just a little difference in timing, but just to show the collections per month that are being applied toward the parking garage.
So just the overview, there's a lot of growth to be had in parking, and I think we're going towards the correct direction, to build a functioning, properly well-oiled machine, if you can say, So we just continue, and if you have any questions.
No, I think that was great. Parking is as close to a bed tax as you can get, so I appreciate everything you're doing. Looks great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think in our packet, there's one additional spreadsheet just showing the revenue from the seafood festival over the last couple of years. And just to show, and there was a decline in the revenue from last year to the current year, attributable to we did not open the Johns Pass parking lot to the public. And that kept us, actually, we had some significant issues in 2022, particularly at night as it got dark, and we had an issue with some high school kids, and which almost resulted in one of them being shot. Fortunately, that did not happen, but anyway, so we closed it this year and just used it for the event. And again, we didn't have any issues, but other than just less revenue because it wasn't available for the public to park there. We're looking as to what we do for next year for the festival, and so we'll let you know what the decision is, but that's the only reason why the revenue was less, or a main reason. And just a couple of other quick things on, as I mentioned a few times, we've added a significant amount of signage. Jamal and staff have been very active in obviously maintaining the parking lots, restriping, striping other areas. One of the comments that we've received is, again, you don't have enough, I didn't know I had to pay to park. So there are other options. Treasure Island, if you go and park in any of their public spaces, every single space is numbered. So they do pay by number, and when you park in a space, if you pay in the kiosk or on the app, you have to enter the space that you're occupying. If you use the app at Madeira Beach, you don't have to do anything other than make sure that if you have more than one vehicle in your app, you have to make sure that it's the correct vehicle. And we have had a few people, just a few, I can think of about 3 or 4, who didn't choose the right vehicle. So I had 4 vehicles at one point, and I still on my app. And so a couple times and there's a default that you choose. A couple times I didn't choose the right vehicle. I got a ticket. My fault. I paid the ticket. Not everyone shares that same sentiment, and they get very angry. When it's your error, why would we take the ticket back? So we've sort of 180'd that, and if they can show that they paid, provide us proof, then we dismiss that citation. The whole premise is that they paid, they just didn't pay correctly. So it's not that we wrote an erroneous citation, or as Jamal said, a false citation. At the time of enforcement, if our officer does not see on the handheld that vehicle plate paid, the citation is issued. Again, we've discussed the reasons why we would waive or dismiss the citation, but a lot of it is dependent on the user to make the right decisions, whether you're paying by the app or entering your plate. So an option that is available is we can avoid the pay by plate and switch to numbering the 577 spaces that we have. I'm not a big fan of that because now you're painting every space, and every so often you have to go back and repaint. Or in a couple of lots in Treasure Island, each space is numbered with a pole. So again, that's to me going back in time to when you had what were called single space meters. So every space had its own parking meter, and you put the coins in. We don't want to go back to that, to having that many meters, particularly at the village. Nor do we want to go back, obviously, to accepting coins. But I think the technology that we have is very good. It works. A little bit more for our customers to utilize it, and it's not very, very complicated. We know that a lot of our visitors are not as savvy as others when it comes to that. But our enforcement staff and Jamal and myself will go out there and help people as much as we can. If we see a lineup at the meter, we kind of go and help them along and make sure that they enter the proper data. Occasionally, I'll give a bonus, and I'll say this publicly. If I see people out there, hey, what's your plate? I'll pay for your parking. Thank you for visiting. It's $6, $9, $12. The city pays me a very good salary. That's, part of my, my dedication and commitment is to make people feel very welcome. And so occasionally, and I had a gentleman who parked across the line. And he told me he was 77 years old. He was on vacation. It was his rental vehicle. Well, his rental vehicle was a mini van, so a pretty big vehicle. I said, sir, if you just don't mind moving your vehicle, he kind of gave me, do I really have to do that? I said, sir, I'll pay for your parking. So he moved his vehicle. No issue. So we don't get up in the morning and want to write citations or give people a difficult time. We want people to enjoy coming here and keep coming back. We're simply relaying that there is a responsibility when you do park. I just spent a week in Ireland, and I should have put in the presentation the lot that I parked in and the machine. The machine was about this wide and this tall, and you had to squint to see what you had to do to pay. And you could put coins in it, or you could, use your, you had to insert a credit card. But there were no signs when you went into the lot that said you had to pay to park. And the lot had 105 spaces. So I think we do a very, very, very good job. We'll look to where we can improve. We will make improvements. Recently, a few business owners said, well, you need to fix the road. So I think Village Boulevard is slated, either next year or the year after, for milling and resurfacing and restriping. And it'll be, look much, much nicer. But Jamal and his staff are very cognizant, and they'll, as well as Public Works, and help out to make improvements. Archibald Park, for example, a few months after I started, I noticed that it was a little chaotic as people were driving around, and as it got busier into March and April, well, it was in March, because I wasn't walking around in April, you could see cars kind of going in multiple directions, and so we painted arrows for the traffic to flow, and it flows much better.
Absolutely.
Those are the improvements that we're looking to constantly make in this enterprise. Also, for some reason, I still don't know why, Andrew hasn't explained why, but our parking all the revenue other than at Archibald Park, which stays in the Archibald Park Fund, all of the other parking revenue is in the general fund. So now it's its own separately accounted for fund. And again, I don't know why, it's just odd that even our external auditors didn't really comment on that. I mean, maybe not something that they typically would, but it just seemed a little bit odd. And so beginning this year, we are now separately accounting for parking as its own separate fund, all the revenues, all the expenses. Again, except for Archibald Park, which is its own fund. So again, looking to make improvements. We do take suggestions from the public, from our visitors. Some of them, again, just a little bit, somewhat unreasonable, I will say, in some of the requests. And a gentleman who wrote to the state of Florida Consumer Protection and said that there were no signs in the lot that he parked that you had to pay to park. And his friends didn't see any signs. So I got a letter back from the state, and I simply wrote back to them and emailed it. I had 12 images of all the signs. I think there were 60 signs in the lot. And so the lady called me right up and said, oh, yeah, no, don't worry about it. Your issue's dismissed, so.
Close to 300 in the entire city, so, and growing. Not to mention all the stickers.
The sign, total
decals,
number of signs.
300 plus, yeah. So we have quite a few, and we put them up daily, so. As well as entry signs that we've recently put up, so.
Yeah. If no other questions, I think or anything else from the public, Mr. Mayor, I think we've killed parking for, so to say.
Okay, well, next up then is item H, replacement of the alternate Board of Trustee on the Gulf Beaches Public Library Board. Do we have any applications or any information there?
This is an appointment by, or it can be an appointment by the board. Commissioner Hudson was the alternate on the library board. Commissioner Hudson I think, stated that he would like to be replaced on the Gulf Beaches Library Board as an alternate. The current city representative on the board is Helen Price. And I think she's indicated to me that she would like to continue as representing the city of Madeira Beach. But we're looking for an alternate if the commission, I don't think we've ever had an application process for that, right, Claire? Oh, we do? Okay, I'm sorry.
No, not for alternate, I apologize.
Not for alternate,
But the
right.
regular ones we do.
Right. So it really, just last year, I believe, the board just decided a motion was made to nominate, if I recall correctly, Commissioner Hudson, and then it was seconded.
Yeah, because alternate
But-
was new. It's
Right.
new on the board.
But you're not making an appointment today. I think it's more of a discussion that's what's happened.
Two questions. Well, two statements. Does it need to be a board member? But I do know that Commissioner Tagliarini had expressed interest when he first stepped in, this time last year. So may want to discuss it with him.
So if I can jump in here, the reason that you're doing this is because when the interlocal agreement was drafted a couple of years ago, there was a change in the makeup of the board from 9 or 11 members down to 5. And that interlocal agreement is in your packet. And you remember that in section 5A, it says, the board shall be reduced to 5 voting members. These members shall consist of 1 member from each of the municipalities. It is the preference of the municipalities that the member be an elected official of the municipality. So There's no provision in here for an alternate. That was just asked, I think, last year because of the fact there was going to be some situation where former Commissioner Price was not going to be available and we needed to have someone step in. And I think that that's what Commissioner Hudson was doing. But your interlocal agreement that has been signed and approved by the city says it's the preference that a member be an elected official of the municipality. It's not required, it's just a preference.
Well, Happy Price has been doing a great job as far as I know. I don't really see a requirement for it to be a board member just because that's the preference.
Correct.
Personally.
Correct.
So I would agree with that. She's done a great job. They've made changes over there that were really good changes.
So, I mean, if she's still willing, that would be my preference. If we need a backup, though, I would speak with Commissioner Taglerini and see if he's interested.
You can do it, we'll do it. Will do.
Next up is letter I, discussion ordinance 2023-15, comprehensive plan activity center definition.
And Mayor and Commission, this item will be presented by Ms. Jenny Rowan, our Community Development Director.
Thank you. Mayor and Commissioners, ordinance 2023-15 creates the Activity Center Future Land Use category in the Madeira Beach Comprehensive Plan. This is consistent with the countywide rules. No specific property or location is associated with this text change. The amendment adds a category of the use the community can choose when updating its plan and map. Adopting the activity center designation for a specific property or area requires a separate land use map amendment and the adoption of regulating policies for an activity center. Ordinance 2023-15 is a rewrite of ordinance 2022-03 with minor changes. If you look in your packets on page 122 and compare it with page 133, which was ordinance 22-03, you can see the changes were from Pinellas Planning Council to Fort Pinellas and countywide plan rules to the countywide plan rules. DEO would not allow us to amend the comprehensive plan until private property rights were adopted. Once those private property rights were adopted, we resubmitted that ordinance 22-03 to DEO. DEO identified no adverse impacts, and that's also in your packet. The city thought it was best to repeal 2022-03 and provide a new ordinance number due to the second hearing occurring prior to DEO's comments and the length and time from the initial hearing. Ordinance 2023-15 is scheduled for review at the April Planning Commission meeting. And you can see the draft of that ordinance on page 122 and through 124 in your packet.
I have a question. In the discussion, it says that the second reading occurred. I don't recall a second reading. I thought we only had the first reading, and then it was submitted to Forward Pinellas, and it hasn't come back yet for a second reading.
It came 2022-03, which is very similar to this one, just adopting that activity center land use category. That did have a second reading. I think that was in February or?
February 9th, I believe,
Thank you.
2022.
Yes,
Last year.
of last
Correct.
year.
Is that different than the ordinance that we saw back in October?
That's different. I believe you're talking about the Johns Pass Activity Center?
Yes.
Yes, that's different. What this is just creating that land use category. and
Just the land use category. It has really nothing to do with the whole
Correct.
presentation.
Correct. This has no land tied to it. It's just the category of activity center in the comprehensive plan.
Okay, now will this, thanks for clearing that up, because I think there was a lot of confusion. on my part, anyway. So will that make 2023-15 a first reading?
Yes, so we'll go to Planning Commission in April, and then we would like to bring that to May to BOC for first reading. And then they'll go to DEO for their review. And I expect we'll get a very similar letter since the language is very similar from 2022-03.
Now, how does that impact, if at all, the discussion, the first reading that we had back in October, November, whenever that timeframe was? Does it have any impact on that at all?
This would have to be, from what I understand, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, this would have to be adopted before that was done for second reading, the Johns Pass Village Activity Center.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay, and that's in review at this point,
Ford Pinellas is waiting for this to be adopted.
before they will provide a
Exactly.
review and a,
So we were thinking, last we talked to Ford Pinellas, that we could just go forward with 2022-03. So I'll have discussions with them after this meeting to see the outcome, and with the Planning Commission, just to tell them where we are and if we can go forward with the Johns Pass Village Activity Center and that land use change, or if they would still want us to hold off and wait until this is adopted completely.
okay, appreciate that. So this will, just to reiterate, it's going to go back to the Planning Commission.
Yes.
They'll have their discussion, and then it'll be brought to the BOC the following month, I assume, or thereafter for the first reading.
Yes, that's
Okay,
correct.
very good. Well, that clears up a lot. Thank you very much.
Of course. Any other questions?
Apparently not.
Nope. Okay. Well, you will see it back in May. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're up to letter J, Director of Finance and City Treasurer position.
So, Mayor and Commission, this item is really the result of the election results. The second proposed amendment to the charter, as Ms. Van Blargen read earlier, was not approved. That amendment focused on an option in our charter to delegate to a contractor or firm to perform the services of finance director, city treasurer, which is currently our current process. The previous city manager recommended and hired essentially a firm, and the board confirmed that appointment to serve as our finance director. And so this is really a discussion, and I think Mr. Trask may weigh in as well as to how you would like to proceed. We are very comfortable with the current arrangement. I mean, I am as city manager with the current arrangement of having Mr. Laughlin's firm serving as our finance director, city treasurer. However, because this was just defeated a couple of weeks ago to change, it's really a change in the wording in our charter. Just wanted to bring that to the commission's attention and kind of direction as to how we would want to proceed. I think Mr. Trask has advised in the past that we are fine as we have been. But again, what occurred in the election, just want to make sure that we have that discussion or any concerns that you may have as a commission, how to proceed.
Yeah, so I'll just jump in here and just give you a little bit of background on this. This is basically I don't even know if it would be a cleanup, but it would be an expansion of the current charter provision that deals with the finance director and the city treasurer. There was some thought that, well, does he have to be an employee or not an employee of the city? And if you read the charter, specifically that section 5.5, it does not require the city treasurer or the director of finance to be an employee of the city. Just like when you look under the other charter officials, for example, city attorney, it doesn't require me to be an employee either. It kind of reads similar in that way, what our responsibilities are, and there is a need for that person. So I've already opined last year when this came up, is this absolutely necessary? No. Would it correct, or not correct it, would it expand the abilities of the commission? Well, it'll just kind of like give a stamp of approval of what we're currently doing. I don't think that it was necessary. I've told the commission, whether it is approved or not approved, it doesn't alter what you're doing or what you have to do. It's my opinion that it's not necessary. I don't frankly think that there needs to be anything done unless you're dissatisfied with Mr. Laughlin and his firm to move forward. It's just, the charter does not require him to be an employee. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so if the vote was in the nay, that tells me that the voters want a full-time employee? Yes or no?
I don't know what the voters voted, the reason that they voted that way.
No, okay, let me rephrase. The voters said, or voted this amendment down, which in essence is saying that the majority vote wants a full-time finance director? Question?
I mean, I think that can be inferred from that.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
it can be. We're not
Okay.
saying yes or no, but
Okay.
I mean, I think reasonably that can be inferred from the vote.
Okay, and then the next question is that this finance person is supposed to be one of our charter officers. How does that come into play when you have a contractor? Can they be a charter officer?
I'm a contractor, and I'm a charter officer. Yeah, as the city attorney.
Correct.
So that's why I was trying to make the connection there, that under your city attorney charter provision, it doesn't say that I have to be an employee. And it's the same for the finance director. It doesn't require that person to be an employee.
Okay, so then the only other question is, what is most cost-effective?
The current arrangement that we have is most cost-effective. We currently, Andrew, you can correct me, I believe it's $7,400 a month or $7,500?
I believe the current is $7,500 a month.
So we pay $90,000 for his firm to serve as the finance director, city treasurer. If it was an individual, likely we would have to pay a base salary, probably $125,000, plus the benefits, et cetera. We're looking at about $160,000 for a full-time finance director, which, is there enough work to do? I think that's the other question. It realistically would be about a 30-hour, if we had somebody here full-time, 25 to 30 hour. So it's not that, I think that's part of the reason why this arrangement was made. I mean, I didn't get the complete explanation from the previous manager, but again, it is a savings to the city by the current arrangement.
Thank you.
You see Andrew sitting here as a representative from his firm for our meetings, but there's a staff behind Andrew. There's software that he's developed. There are multiple government agencies that his firm does this exact same thing for. So in my opinion, if we can do it without risk of any legal action from someone else because of this charter amendment not passing, if we're still in good stead, and it's the staff, there's nothing but positives that I see having the contract with Andrew's firm, in my experience for the last year.
So we could go ahead and move forward on this and,
Well, as Mr. Trask has mentioned, there's really, one option is just not to do anything, just to continue the contract that we have.
exactly. Yeah.
No action is required.
Yeah. It really just,
Just
again, just a
keep doing it.
discussion.
And if I can add, if there's any concern either among the citizenry or with any individual members of the commission over either my personal performance, my firm's performance, or the finance operation in general, I certainly welcome a one-on-one meeting. You can also not only discuss with me, but you can talk to any one of my members on my team that are full-time employees here. And of course, if they have any concerns or want an alternate arrangement, then let's certainly embark in those discussions. But I can tell you, from my own perspective, it has been a very great working dynamic between myself, my firm, and then the full-time members of the finance team. But certainly you're welcome to corroborate with them, certainly at your will, and I'm happy to have any discussions with any of you in one-on-one meetings, should you have any concerns of the irregularity of the arrangement of a contractor serving in this role.
Okay, I think I erred and didn't ask for public comment before we started on this, so if we could entertain that now, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. I had hoped to not speak, but I have to speak in response to this. Bill Howell, 497 Johns Pass Avenue. I can't believe you would all consider not doing something after the city just voted against this. What do you think those people were voting for? We don't want a contractor in that job. In fact, I would challenge the competency of him and his firm because my efforts to obtain return on investment documents for projects here shows that none are being done. That's basic 101 of the finance director. I just can't imagine. I can't believe I'm sitting here listening to you all think, from the attorney, oh, we just won't do anything. Well, why did you put that on the ballot then? This is just shameful. And it comes up at what is it now? 2+ hours into this meeting, you all spent more time talking about parking revenues than any other topic tonight. Do you really seriously think that was the topic that needed the most time of every topic on this agenda? It's just shameful. It's just shameful, and that's why we have Mr. Rostick as mayor now, and the citizens aren't going to put up with this nonsense. And Mr. Trask, I still wonder how you continue to be the attorney, because my understanding is the city still hasn't done that properly. So I challenge any opinion coming from Mr. Trask about, oh, let's just continue this whole arrangement. Please. Get us a finance director and put that person in charge. You're collecting money like there's no tomorrow, but nobody's watching it go out the door. Get a finance department. I'm really disappointed.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioner, we do have a finance department. We are keeping an eye on the finances every single day, every minute. I would like to add 427 people did vote yes for this, so it wasn't a gigantic majority. So just to be clear and to be correct and accurate. Thank you. He's not allowed to come back.
That needs a response. It lost. It lost. Mr. Rostick won by what, 35 or 37 votes. He's sitting here because he won. That ordinance was turned down by the citizens. Now we're going to, rewrite the whole notion of voting? Oh, well, they voted in favor of it, but we'll just ignore them. Do you see what the message is that you're sending to the citizens of this city? I mean, it's just shameful.
I think.
Mr. Gomez, I know you don't care for me. That's well documented. Okay?
I don't know who you are, sir.
Yes, you
but
do.
all
I introduced myself. I sent you 10+ emails today.
I've never met you in person, sir, so I don't know who you are. That's just my comment, but I think we've received your point,
I thought
sir.
my 3 minutes were my 3 minutes, Mr. Gomez.
think with that.
Are there any other questions? Or up to adjournment? Do we have a motion on the floor?
I make a motion.
I'd like to have a second from somebody, please.
I make a motion.
Meeting is adjourned at 8:29 PM.